culture that is becoming more secular, almost all of our normal ways of doing ministry in the West, and listen, I'm not the first person to say this, assume people who have got certain religious dots, and then ministry is just connecting those dots. So the religious dots are, they believe in God, they believe in moral truth, they do have some concept of sin and guilt that they not live the way they should. Yeah. They do think there's something out there beyond this world, maybe there's an afterlife. In other words, there's religious dots that people have always had, even if they weren't Christians. And then evangelism and discipling is basically connecting the dots they already have. What happens when you get into a culture where increasing numbers, especially young people, don't have the dots? Wow. So the idea of sin isn't really coherent, and they got no good sense of it. The idea of moral truth, doesn't, out there that I have to align with, isn't there. And if you don't understand that change that's happening in the culture right now, and you just keep on doing business as usual, you're going to become less and less effective. And to know the culture is part of wisdom. Yeah. It's part of wisdom is to know the times and the seasons. Knowing God, knowing yourself, knowing others, and knowing the times and seasons. And that's what wisdom is. And a lot of people don't know the times and seasons. I get to Europe, I read about Europe, I see church planting in Europe, and I see how hard it is. Yeah. And I one of the questions I ask is America on its way to being that secular? And I don't know if it's true or not, but if it is, I wouldn't say anybody in Europe is actually, they haven't cracked the code either. It's really, really hard. Put it this way, even if you go to a Hindu, a Muslim, if you go to the animists of Africa, you go to Latin America, they still had a concept of a moral truth and sin and guilt and shame. Yeah. Okay? So there's a sense in which they actually had the dots. You might say they had religious dots. And so missionary work has always been able to work with the dots and help people connect the dots. But we really don't know much about a relatively new phenomenon, which is post-Christian secularism, where they don't have the dots, and where they've almost been inoculated against Christianity because it's a post-Christian society. So am I concerned about us as the church floundering around not knowing what to do? Yeah. So.